Welcome everybody to Spirituality Adventures. This is a non-judgmental place to explore spirituality, and we're so glad you're here. This is a viewer and listener supported podcast, so we greatly appreciate your support. If you're watching on YouTube, be sure and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Be sure and like, share, and subscribe to any of the social media content platforms that you're using. And then if you go to our website, spiritualityadventures.com, you can make a one-time donation, or with a monthly subscription, you'll gain access to our bonus content. We greatly appreciate it. Thank you for tuning in. Welcome everybody to Spirituality Adventures. We are excited to have Marina Diaz with us today. She's a business owner. She is a co-owner of Upside Bungee, and we're going to be talking a little bit about her background and just some different things about her life and then her business as well. So thank you, Marina, for joining us on Spirituality Adventures.
Thank you for having me.
You bet. Yeah. So let's start. I always like to start with, where you grew up and give us a little bit of your background, your family history, that kind of thing.
Yeah. I grew up here in Kansas City, all around Kansas City, anywhere from 58th and Harrison all the way to the Northland. So we moved around quite a bit. My dad is from Venezuela, and my mom is from here. So they met, it's pretty much all downhill from that first night.
Did they meet in Kansas City?
They did. My mom sent a invitation to my mom loves foreigners. So she had this whole party set up for foreigners, and she sent an invitation to the wrong address and put north on it instead of south, and it hit my dad, and my dad just showed up anyways, and
oh my gosh,
they met. Yeah,
that's crazy.
Yeah, well, it gets way crazy.
How old was your dad when he immigrated to the U.S.?
He came here for college, so about college age.
Come on a student visa?
Yeah, he came on a student visa.
Which college?
So he's KU.
Okay.
So my dad's
awesome.
He's an engineer, and met my mom, and then I came not too far after they met, and they got a contract marriage. Cool.
So you grew up here in Kansas City then?
Yep.
Where'd you go to elementary, junior high, high school?
So Linden West, Northgate, and Northtown.
Okay.
So that's
Kansas City grad. Yeah, I was a Park Hill grad.
Okay.
way before you. But anyway,
open lunch for you.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I was like a TWA brat. They called us. My dad worked for TWA, and we could fly around for free. And
all right, you got me there.
Yeah. So at any rate, but yeah. Tell me about some of your background growing up. Like what kind of things were your hobbies? What did you love? What did you not like about your growing up years?
A big part of my growing up was religion. So my parents, this funny story anyways. So my mom's punk rocker, hippie punk rocker. So rock bands all through the 80s,
That's what she was into?
Oh yeah.
What were her favorite bands?
Well,
Just
she was in a band. The Hates was her band.
Oh wow.
So
she was a singer?
She plays the bass and a singer. Yeah.
Huh.
So
interesting.
So that's what she did. And then my dad, Latin party boy. So
your mom, a 80s punk rocker.
Oh yeah. So
what were some of the bands you were? Yeah, there we go.
Grew up with all kinds of.
Yeah.
So we grew up. A lot of the music was an influence, but as they started to raise families, they wanted bigger purposes, I believe. So the Jehovah's Witnesses knocked on their door one day and, told them about their paradise earth they believe in. And, they wanted to get to church with the kids and whatnot. So they started studying the Bible with them, and they got baptized in 1995.
Okay.
So they became Jehovah's Witnesses. So that was a big part of my early youth was being Jehovah's Witnesses. So that entailed going to church 3 times a week and going to knock on doors on Saturday mornings.
Wow. Like when you were a kid?
Yeah. Yep. So they got baptized in like 1995. So
and they have so much literature that they...
So much literature. A lot.
Yeah.
That was before the digital age. So they had lots of books and magazines and whatnot.
Exactly.
So pretty much most of our youth was dedicated to that. All church, so didn't leave a whole lot of time for extra hobbies.
And you guys had church service on Saturday, is that right?
So we knocked on doors Saturday, went to church Sunday, and then went
Sunday.
to church like 2 other days out of the week out of that, and then like family study too, and
studies in the home,
like days and hours, and then we study for the meetings too. So constantly studying the Bible, and so. And they didn't believe in much of outside influence. It wasn't allowed, so weren't allowed to really hang out with many people outside of the religion.
Yeah, so your mom got rid of her punk rock music.
So, there was always a little side to it where sometimes the weekend would hit and it'd be like, they're like, we're going to do, so it was like probably
in
like my household.
Am I remembering like maybe like even some of the holidays?
Yep. So we don't celebrate Christmas or Halloween, birthdays, none of it really. Besides the Passover or the resurrection Jesus.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much the only thing that they celebrate. But
and like, were you watching TV? Like, were you watching standard television stuff?
TV. Me and my sisters, we were outside kids. We were always playing in the creeks, exploring the woods, skateboarding, just sledding if we could.
See, now I'm all for that.
Yeah, we were out of the house. We did not want to be in the. If we were in the house, they were going to make us do chores or study the Bible. So we were like, okay,
so let's get out of here. No.
So we were outside.
But that was my growing up years. Is like. It was outside. I always wanted to be outside.
Oh yeah. We make up our own games. We had our little neighbor. We grew up in apartments most of our life. We grew up pretty poor. So it was like make friends with all the neighbor kids and we were all outside. We loved it. They made us come back in. We didn't want to.
Yeah. So early on you started having a love for the outdoors.
Oh yeah, for sure. We love.
What were some of your earliest sports? Are you riding a bike, motorcycles, you said skateboarding?
Skateboarding, yep. So we learned how to skateboard. We actually didn't get bikes till we were old. I don't think I learned how to ride a bicycle till I was 10. Okay. My dad didn't love us playing sports so much. Because my mom says because he was scared we were going to turn into lesbians if we played sports. So he wouldn't let us play sports because my cousin played softball and she turned into a lesbian, I guess.
Is that a Venezuelan thing? Because I'm like I don't think I've ever heard somebody.
I think it was a mix of the Venezuelan and religion too.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever heard a parent go, I'm not sure if I want my kid to play outside because she might turn into a lesbian.
Yeah, so
that's interesting.
I was really athletic. And growing up, all my coaches in high school, I'd be in their PE classes and they're like, come play on our team, and I'm like, my dad won't let me.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So, with all the church, we don't have time.
Yeah.
So I didn't pick up many of my
But were
hobbies.
you skating as much as you could?
Oh yeah, we loved our skateboards.
Did you go to, were there any skateboard parks that you went to regularly?
No, we had the apartment complex, so we had a full reign of the whole parking lot, which I'm sure the neighbors loved.
So you turned that into your skateboard park.
That was our skateboard park.
All right. Well, cool.
Yeah. So
what about post high school? You graduated from Northtown?
Yeah, I went to Northtown. So I left the religion and my family when I was 16. I moved out and, made some new friends, but throughout all of that, music was the biggest thing because that was something that I could do, that I had control over, like my boom box, and I could make my mixtapes, so that was always like the biggest part of my life was the music. And then after that, I got to travel, so I got to go snowboarding and I got to go ski.
So how did you get to travel? What was
so after that I worked. I've worked since I was 14, so work, and then I met my first fiance when I was 17, and he was ex Jehovah's Witness too, so we got along on that front. We got an apartment, and I finished high school, and then we got to go with our friends to go to Colorado, and that was like one of the first times I got to travel on my own. I'm like, oh, this is so cool, like seeing how other people live and other geography, and not being so, constrained.
So on the music front, were you a singer or a musician or anything?
No, I used to write poems.
Okay.
When I was young. So
but you were just totally into, what kind of music were you listening to?
Music. Oh, when I was younger, like Ani DeFranco and Jack Johnson and G Love and the Special Sauce. And this is probably like 15 something.
Yeah.
I took my mom to Ben Harper and Jack Johnson, but live music, and like Ben Folds, and we went to a lot. I love Jimi Hendrix. I've got a tattoo of him. So,
what live concerts did you hit? You said Ben Folds and who else? I'm just curious.
G-Love, Jack Johnson, Ben Harper. Oh, I've been to so many concerts. I couldn't even tell you. Lastly, like we went to go see Glass Animals. I really liked them, but back then, pretty much any concert ticket I could get my hands on, I was going.
Cool.
Even if I didn't even know who it was, like some random punk shows at the old El Torreon. Like, I don't know who these bands are, but I'm going.
I know I've been in the El Torreon.
Yeah, my mom used to play there.
Wow. Interesting.
Oh yeah, it was a good place.
Yeah. So, a buddy of mine even had a vineyard church going in El Torreon at one point.
Yeah, I remember that. Okay.
Because I was a vineyard pastor for years in Kansas City, and so I had one of my buddies I preached there one time.
Did you?
Yeah.
I remember that when that went in there. I was like, that's interesting.
Yeah.
That place has been many things.
But it's got such a crazy history. It's had some of the biggest headline bands that went off there. It's the first place in Kansas City where there was mixed dancing, black and white. It has some fascinating history.
It's like a roller rink. It's been all
yeah. Anyway, interesting. Yeah, so the music thing, and then when you left the Jehovah Witnesses, what were you, talk about that a little bit. What were you leaving? Why did you leave it? And then what happened? Where have you journeyed spiritually since then?
I was so angry when I left. It was tough for me, always questioning everything, and I think everyone was always just really frustrated with me because I could not ever just do something just to do it. I always had to know why I was doing things, and being a female in that religion, it is tough anyways because you're not so much valued. The opinions aren't, or any ideas that I had, so it was hard for me. And they don't allow a lot of things, like any kind of drug use or sexual relations or anything like that, and you get in trouble. If you get in trouble, you get excommunicated from your whole family. So I never got baptized because I was like, well, if I don't get baptized, then I can't get excommunicated, was my reaning. And they were frustrated with me because I wouldn't do that. And so I managed to still get in trouble anyhow, with an older guy. And I was like 16, and there was a lot of that going on. A lot of those girls went through the same thing where it was like things going on with the kids' dad that they babysat, or older guys in the church, So that happened. And then, they said they weren't going to report it to the authorities, and they thought I was like...
So there was some sexual abuse going on.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And completely. In the whole religion.
Oh, wow.
So, and it's just like... And it was common, and it was known, and they were never going to do anything about it. And it made me angry because they thought that I was lying, and so they asked if like the family paid me off and like all kinds of just weird stuff. And I was like, well, I didn't even want to tell you guys any of this. The only reason why I am is because I got busted. Like someone came out and but I don't think I should be having to explain all these details of my life in a committee of like 5 grown men, you know, super weird. So the whole thing was just, and then they told me that I wasn't repentant enough for my sins, and I got in trouble, and I wasn't allowed to go out and field service anymore or go knock on doors. So I'm like, okay, whatever, that's fine. And so I was just upset and angry, and so and then the final straw was I told my dad I wasn't going to church anymore, and he punched me. So I was like, I'm out of here. So I packed my bags, and they all went to church, and he left my mom to babysat me while I was gone, and I jumped out the window and had my friends come pick me up, and I never really went home.
Wow.
Stuff since then.
Wow.
Yeah.
Man, that's crazy, huh?
Oh, super crazy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow. So you're on your own basically from 16 forward.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so you still graduated.
I did. Yeah. Luckily, because I was working and going to school, but luckily I was on track to graduate early anyways, because I always had really great grades and took whatever classes I could. And I worked with peer leadership, and I did a lot of charity stuff, and I really liked school a lot.
Right.
Because I liked learning, but and the thing with the Jehovah's Witnesses, they told me that I could never go to college either. Yeah,
interesting.
Destined to be a housewife.
Wow.
I don't want that.
Yeah.
I like school.
Yeah. So you met this guy, and
he helped me through. He helped me get school done, and helped me a lot.
That's awesome. And then so did you continue any education after high school?
No. By that point, we were looking at houses, and he was laying floors. He didn't have a high school education. A lot of those kids are homeschooled.
Okay.
So a lot of them don't have education.
So, he was a former Jehovah Witness. Yeah.
So he didn't get to finish school, and so he was laying floors. So we were pretty broke. So I was working a lot. I worked pretty much my whole life. So just working to get the bills paid and get it done. And so for me, I never even came to the conclusion that I could go to school. It still, I think, was instilled in my mind that was something that I couldn't do. And I don't know why. I actually started school for the first time last year.
But oh wow, last year? Really?
Yeah, during the pandemic, I'm like, what? I'm going to school.
Where did you enroll?
Just MCC. Get some credits out
awesome.
of the way. Yeah.
Well, good for you, man. So I'm curious about your love affair with Colorado. Can we call it that?
Oh yeah, no,
because
I loved it
I have one of those.
Oh yeah.
And I remember going to Colorado when I was a young teen for the first time with my parents, and I was like you. I love the outdoors. I started backpacking and camping out with my friends when I was 14, and
nice.
and just always wanted. I even was telling my sisters I was going to be a mountain man when I grew up. I was just gonna I'd watch Jeremiah Johnson. I thought, oh, that's what I want to do. I want to be a mountain man. And so
that's awesome.
But yeah, so and then I started rock climbing when I was 16, and I still mountain bike and still that's my main thing right now. But I still do some rock climbing, not like I used to. I was an avid rock climber for about 20 from teenagers through my 40s. But
that mountain bike stuff's tough too.
Yeah, I do that all the time. I'd go on trips and
awesome.
But yeah, I love to go to Colorado and backpack and fly fish and hike and rock climb and mountain bike and all of that kind of stuff. I was a skier too, but blew my knee out when I was in my 20s on the East Coast snow skiing.
Oh, why would you do that?
Right. Yeah, you shouldn't even be skiing on the East Coast. No. It was icy and all crappy and everything. But at any rate, and then I gave it up because my knee, I had 5 knee surgeries in a few years, and anyway, that's why I cycle now. I kind of ruined my running career and all that. So tell me about your love affair with Colorado and some of those outdoor things you've developed over time.
Yeah, one of the gals who I grew up Jehovah's Witness with, she was about a year older than me, and she'd gotten in trouble too and whatnot. But she moved out there to Vail, and she was living on the mountain with a house of guys. And she's like, yeah, I mean, we're all barely getting by, but they lived on the back end of the mountain. And it was like, wow, you came out here and you did this, and you're living somewhere so cool and meeting all these new people and having all these new experiences. I could do this completely. And So we went snowboarding all weekend and exploring around, and I was just amazed that anyone makes it out of Kansas City. It's like,
right.
Wow, this is
life
awesome.
outside of Kansas City.
It was good. And like everything was just different there. The restaurants, the vibes, and I was like, man, I want to go somewhere like this. So I did make it out to San Diego, and I lived out there for a couple years too, and I liked it out there a lot. Yeah, so I was like,
perfect weather all the time.
Oh yeah, and lots to do, a plethora of activity. So it was just a really big inspiration for me out there that there were so many people living so freely, doing what they loved, like the mountain life. Like these people were all about their snowboarding and skiing, and just that was like their God.
Yeah.
I was like, wow.
So did you really dive into some of those like subcultures of people that were...
Oh yeah, like any experience that came up, like people on the gondola, like, hey, you want to go check this out with me, and like smoke this whatever and have this be. I'm like, yeah, like everything was yes, like yeah, I want to check this out, like I want to go here, I want to visit there, like anything that came up. For so much of my life, like pretty much my whole 20s, I was a yes woman. Like I want to experience it all.
So you developed some hobbies that you still do now, right?
Oh yeah. So
what are some of those that have stuck with you?
Oh, the hobby. So out there, just snowboarding. I liked, and when I was in San Diego, we did some surfing stuff. But right now, we got a buddy who got a new wake surf boat, so we've been doing a lot of that, the wake surfing. Let's see here. What else? Oh, hiking too. Like, I don't know that was a thing in Kansas, or maybe I just was not ever finding the groups to do that. But like going on hikes was so much fun too. And then, yeah, just anything. Like I was always down to try whatever. But those are the main ones that like my daughter now that I do with her. Those are the things she likes. And she's got a mountain bike too. And we got mountain bikes and some of the easier trails.
I'm sure you've discovered a lot of the mountain bike hiking trails around Kansas City.
Some of them, let's see, and my fiance too, he's the one who's really was all about mountain biking, but we go to Lake Lawrence, out in the Lawrence River Trail out there, Hobbs Park, some of those other places like that.
I did an interview last spring, spring 2021, with one of the guys that was the president of the Earth Riders. And there's volunteer guys and gals that work on the trails in Kansas City. And it's you can find out. There's a little app called Urban Trail Company, and then if you hit the Kansas City area, Kansas City actually has, as far as larger cities go, have more dirt track, single track trails than just about any other bigger city in the country.
Oh yeah, there's tons here.
People don't realize it. So I actually did a whole interview. We met at a Wyandotte County lake.
Oh, nice.
And they've got lots of trails. These are places I mountain bike, but you can hike them and do all of that. So, but we did a whole interview just on the trails in Kansas City that people can access and hike and discover and mountain bike, all that. Yeah. So there's hundreds of miles of trails in Kansas City, and yeah. Are you a Northlander? Do you live in the Northland?
Yep. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I live here.
So Hodge Park, Smithville Lake,
I've been up there.
Got Stocksdale.
Yep.
You can hit, oh gosh, what else is up here in the Northland? Wyandotte County is not Northland, but you can hit Swope Park south of the river.
Oh yeah, Swope.
And Landau out by Independence.
No, I've never been out there.
They got tons of trails out there. Great trails. Of course, Blue River. I mean, you just bounce all around. But yeah, Lawrence is a great place to start.
That's
people.
It's great. With my daughter,
beginner
it's
trails.
Swoopy and flowy, and that's and go to the sandbar, make it fun.
Yeah, well, good stuff.
And now we got motors.
Yeah,
so it was, kind of been ditching the mountain bikes for the dirt bikes.
Yeah, I always tell my motorcycle buddies, real cyclists pedal, you know.
Yeah.
I also say
mountain biking is a lot tougher than you would think. Sometimes I'm like, man, I wish I had
I also say real cyclists wear spandex, but that's just to harass my Harley Davidson leather wearer guys, you know. So anyway. All right. Well, let's talk a little bit about your business, Upside Bungee.
Upside Bungee.
And it's in the West Bottoms area. Mm-hmm. How did you get into that? What motivated you?
So my business partner Rachel, she owns a studio called Valet in Kansas City, Kansas. So I met her through my mom one time. She was out and just met this lady who does all these circus acrobat experiences, and she does performances. And so I met Rachel through there. She's like, you gotta go to her studio. So I went and took some classes, and I'm like, oh, this is so cool that this lady made this whole career out of like the circus, you know. And it was like one of my dreams when I was a kid. I wanted to run away and join the circus.
Yeah.
I'm like, she's living the life, like traveling and going to perform and doing this also. I'm like, this is the coolest. Her place is awesome. So I took some classes with her, trained with her a little bit, and then off and on. And then these bungees started coming out on TikTok everywhere. I started seeing it, and bungee fitness. I'm like, man, where can I do this? In Kansas City. So I'm Googling it, and there's nowhere to do it around here. And I talked to her. I said, have you done this? And she's like, yeah, I have those. But my studio is the ceilings are too high and the floor space is too small, so we can't do it here. So I was like, man, well, we need to like make a place to do this. And she's like, yeah, let's do it. And so this all happened within just a couple months. And then we went out to Philadelphia and went and got certified to go teach the classes. And then the hardest part was finding a place that was going to let us rig into their ceilings to do it. So we finally found a place that which was much more of a place than we had anticipated, but it's a huge space. It's like 6,000 square feet down there in the West Bottoms. So we've been able to do a lot of other things in there too. But so we went and got certified, got the rigging done, got all the equipment, and started teaching classes. And this all started in, I think, from May to August
of this year.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So this is a new business.
Oh yeah, new.
Right off the ground.
Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah, it's been intense and crazy, but it's been a lot of fun too.
Very cool. So how have you just gotten the word out on social media and stuff like that? Is that what you've been doing?
Yeah, pretty much social media. Well, I know her website at her other studio was getting a lot of hits for bungee too. So she's like, people are obviously looking for it, you know, and there's been people that were like, oh, I've been looking for a place to do this, you know. So social media, they're finding us on there, Google, pretty much word of mouth has been the best thing for us.
Yeah. So like give like who's your target audience? Like who should go in? You know, you've got there's Orange Theory, you got gyms, you got old gyms, you got weights, you got all these different options, you got yoga, you got all kinds of things that are out there today in the fitness space. So
we do offer yoga and like aerial hammock classes and floor dancing classes and everything like that. But for the bungee specifically, I love the crowd because it's somebody who's willing to try something completely different that looks sometimes and feels a little ridiculous because you're strapped into a harness and clipped onto a bungee pack. So, you know, it's like rock climbing harnesses and whatnot. So, so the crowd is a lot of fun. So you get a lot of those people who are more adrenaline seekers or just want to try something new.
Okay.
But I've had everyone. I've had this older couple comes in And they're like, oh, I don't know if we can do, and then they're doing like handstand push-ups, I'm like, what? So you really can't judge people that way, I think, as far as like saying a specific gender, because I've had lots of guys in there too, or age range.
Is it low impact?
Yep, low impact resistance workout. Yeah. So
people who have joint issues, like myself. That's why I cycle.
Oh, I hear you got that knee surgery.
Yeah, I can't jump or run or anything like that. But
and there's modified versions too of things if you're uncomfortable. But a lot of it is resistance, low impact. Anyone, if you can at least do a small jump and land, then we can get you going on that for sure.
Okay.
So
you're doing your classes run what?
They're price wise?
An hour? An hour?
An hour, yep.
Hour class.
Yeah.
And anybody can show up.
Yeah, so we make the reservations online. So through our website, upsidebungee.com. So they go in there and they book a pass through Punch Pass, and then pick a class.
Upsidebungee.com.
Upside Bungee. Yep.
Upside Bungee. Bungee. All right.
Yeah.
Upsidebungee.com.
And right now, there's actually a contest going on there to win some classes through Friday.
Okay.
So,
yeah. Well, so if you're listen, check it out. There's a contest through Friday, this Friday. Then what about, you said yoga? How do you do that?
We have a comedic yoga. So the space is so big that we have a couple different areas. So the yoga area is like the green room up there, and it's got the plants and the pretty ambiance over there. And so it goes on at a different time than the bungee class.
So this is just traditional yoga then?
Yes. Yeah.
Like you're not in a bungee.
No,
you're not doing bungee yoga.
But I do stretching with the bungees, which is really nice because you can get some deep stretches when those bungees. Your body can move a little bit differently than it could otherwise, and you have the support.
Okay.
So, and that feels really good too.
So you've got bungee stuff going on, but then you do just do regular yoga classes.
We have a couple of yoga instructors, 3 of them. And then we have aerial hammock classes too. So aerial hammock yoga. So those are the hanging hammocks, the silks, and then we offer a yoga class in those too. And then liquid motion's kind of like a sexy floor dancing class that we have.
Wow.
Yeah. So
many interesting ways to be healthy.
To move your body. The floor dancing is really interesting. You learn how your body can crawl different ways. And then it's like, I never realized.
Yeah. So I'm always curious. So for me, moving my body in the outdoors, we talked about outdoors, is something, if I don't do regularly every week, that I actually start feeling depressed.
Yeah.
So there's a mental health component to the way I work out and stuff like that, moving my body, getting good aerobics. So that's why mountain biking is perfect for me, because I can move. But I love stuff where I can combine, and for me that's a spiritual thing, like mental health and like just being in nature, moving my body, and I've done yoga too.
Oh yeah.
And I enjoy that, like the spirituality of incorporating my body movements with my body, with like practices of prayer and meditation, stuff like that.
Breathing is really
breathing.
Important.
Exactly. Yeah. So I'm curious, is there a spiritual component that you've, like, your journey since leaving Jehovah Witness, and how you view what you're doing now? Do you see a spiritual component to what you're doing? And if so, how would you describe that? Yeah,
no, completely. So after leaving that, it was very little faith in anything, pretty much. So since then, a lot of good things have happened, and this has drawn a really great crowd of people towards me, after leaving that and then experiencing like party life. A lot of I realized that there's not a lot of nice people out there as I had thought. But then now I'm realizing there's a lot of good people out there too. Anyone that's willing to experience this with me, I've noticed, are people who really care about their bodies, their health, their well-being, their minds. And that's really inspirational to me too, that they just see something and go for it and come and do it, or that hadn't been an option for me in my life at one point, to take such control over yourself. And the spiritual journey for me has been that my spirituality was so tied to religion that I thought, maybe I'm not a spiritual person because your faith in God and the past religion was always referred to as your spirituality. But to me now, we go do things all the time. The bungee, is a good headspace, mind clearer, and that just helps relieve so much anxiety. Like, if God, or whatever you want to call the higher power out there, gives you all these tools to utilize that can help, I've had knee surgeries too. And, this has been really nice, a tool for me to use to reconnect with my body in a different way. And that's been super nice, but also being able to do things outside, like you were saying too. Like, I love the snowboarding. We were going dirt biking frequently, like out on the water. The water's always been that way to me. Such an aquatic name. Like, that is when I feel whole and I can really rejoice in all the nature that's around me. And that's where I find my spirituality. And I find my spirituality, I find in other people too. I'm like, wow, like, there's a lot of bad things in the world, but there are a lot of good people, and they're doing a lot of good things. I work with small businesses. We host vendor pop-ups, and all these people pouring out their creativity in different ways, different art forms, and connecting with the community. It's been really nice. That's awesome.
Yeah, I like to talk, like in the popular, a lot of people, like even in the recovery world, people say, religion is of man, spirituality is of God. And there's these little pop phrases. And, but when I talk to people in general, and this is kind of a pop definition, a lot of people think about religion as being rules, dogma, super legalistic, who's in and who's out. And if you're out, then you're probably going to hell, and, all those kind of things. Yeah. And so, but then spirituality, what I've talked about in my blogs and on this podcast, is that spirituality is connection to self, to others, and to something greater than you that's loving and caring. And so however people would define that, but so like your connection to self, I think physical fitness, physical health, for me, ties directly with my mental health. And so those two go together. And so that's why I think, like, if you can combine embodied spirituality, to me, like what you're talking about, what you're doing at Upside Bungee, can combine both a body movement and some mental health practices and that kind of thing, or prayer and meditation while you're doing it, that kind of stuff. But then also you have the community element. So as you're doing this with other people, you begin to build relationships, community, the creativity. And then I love the fact that you're connecting with your community in Kansas City, and with I think creativity is a spiritual activity.
Completely. I agree with you. So
that's why I love interviewing our creatives, our creative people in the city of Kansas City, because most of them are doing that because of their spirituality and their love for others, and their love for something greater that's connecting us all.
Yeah, it's great to expand your mind, and you can do that in ways that aren't self-absorbed. Give all your heart to something else, and you get a lot more in return, for sure. Yeah. And that's like the bungee, you can explore movements different ways, and it is really creative.
What have you learned about leadership?
Yeah.
in your journey and in your business journey and stuff?
I've learned a lot from examples that I didn't. Mostly what I didn't want to be is what I started with. And I was like, all right, I've seen this kind of leadership and like dictatorship and, shaming, that kind of thing. I don't want to be like that, especially when I'm working with the creative vendors. It's like I'm open to any ideas. I've started working with a local comedy scene too, so they started doing a comedy show at Upside Bungee, and it's like I really want everyone else to prosper, and I want to share everything with everyone. I want everyone to share everything with me. So it's like I try to be open with everyone, and with that also be clear and communicative, because especially when teaching the classes as well, it's if you let everyone take free reign, you don't gain as much from it as trying to be a leader. So it's like you can still be able to use your words and say what you mean and have everyone follow you, but then also give time for people to explore other movements too. Give and take, I find that's all it is with that.
Yeah, so it's interesting. So you mentioned like and I think that happens with a lot of us. We bump up against a negative leader. So one of the things I used to ask people, I'd teach a leadership class, and I asked people to think about like who in your life would you say are a positive leadership influence, and what were maybe one or two things that you learned from them on the positive side of leadership, and then who are two or three negative leaders.
Yep.
And what were the negative things that you learned from them? And when you mentioned you learned what you didn't want to be, you learned how you didn't want to lead. And one of them you said was shame-based. Yeah. And the other one was dictatorial. Yeah. So those were two leadership styles that you saw in action. Shame-based, dictatorial, and you're like, okay, I don't want that.
No, yeah.
What were some of your most positive influences, and what were some of the? And I heard you saying when you're saying open, and the way you described it, I was thinking almost like generosity as a part of openness. Yeah. So because you're trying to connect, you're trying to learn, you're trying to build community, you want to see other people succeed, you want to succeed, but it's that flow of generosity.
It is. With them, it's like I let them use the space and we work on a split, or things like that. Just they give me ideas and I try to think of ways that we can make it happen to where it'll work for all of us. And that's that. But also I remember I used to manage a Pacific Sunwear when I was a kid, and there was the district manager. She was like, I don't even know how she did it. She would wave her hand over something and it would be like magically done all the time. And I'm like, how does she do this all the time? But she was just such a perfectionist, and the way she worked. And so everyone, not a lot of people liked her, but I really respected her ability to get things done and her leadership. If you said something, people were doing it, but and it was always in the best interest of, but she always stuck to what she said all the time, and I remember I was so frustrated one time. I'm like, she's going to yell at me and and I called her and I was really upset. And, she really calmed me down. And she was like, all right, my employees had left me on one of the busiest days and I was by myself and it was so crazy. And she was like, all right, so when you talk to these people, you have to make a sandwich, you have to say something good and then you have to put the negative in the middle and then you have to end with something good again, and I'm like, oh yeah, that makes and it's like, oh, and deep down she had a lot of insight and but she came off in the beginning kind of like like a witch is what they would call her, but she was not. She was a very nice lady.
So this is somebody that you learned some really positive things from.
Oh yeah,
as a good influence, even though initially you weren't sure about it. Right?
Oh yeah, no one was. I don't think, but I was like, well, I'm just going to try to build a relationship with her, and I did, and it was great. And then I've encountered too I worked for other small businesses that have great leadership who would let you create in the ways that you want to create. And I always appreciated that, like be able to make my sales the way I want to, or talk the way I want to, and dress the way, not take away my complete individuality and let me work the way I want. But it's always worked in the best interest of all of us when they have allowed that. And that's how I want to be with other people.
Yeah.
Is let them be them.
Right. So you give some, obviously there's some boundaries, right?
Yes, yeah. Boundaries are very important.
But there's freedom within the boundaries for people to
control
express.
Every little thing. You can't, it's not going to happen. You're going to drive yourself crazy that way.
Yeah, that's good.
You set the boundary for the outcomes you want, and maybe a little bit of limitation, but you can't control it all.
Right. Yeah. And I like working with people who have want to take initiative, want to take risk, and want to create. And I like to give people some freedom to do that.
Yeah.
And then if it doesn't work, or if it blows up or something, okay, well, what can we learn from it? And then let's do better next time.
Yeah. I designed jewelry for a lot of years for a company. And when I started, it was really small business. So it was like, wear what you want and listen to your music, come in, do your thing. For me, it was really productive because I could be comfortable. I could, get in my creative zone, do things the way I wanted to do. And then they started moving towards corporate, and it was like, all right, you got to dress like this, you can't watch this here anymore, you can't listen to this anymore, no more talking, and like really cameras and it was like, I cannot create in this space. Wow. Like, it is not gonna work. And so I couldn't do it anymore. And I'm like, I don't want anyone to have to go through that, to have to quit something they love over such small details that don't really matter. I didn't feel like they mattered, and I don't think a lot of other people do either. Yeah.
Well, cool. Well, so Upside Bungee, just get it started here this past summer.
Yep.
And is there an age group? Is it young, old, both?
Yeah, so we got kids harnesses.
Okay. So how young?
So 10 is about the age. We're a little lenient. It's more so weight based. Okay. So, we have to be able to support your weight in our harness. So we'd like to see about 80 pounds or so.
Okay.
And so kids birthday parties. We're doing a birthday party next Friday night.
Oh, that's awesome. That would be awesome.
Yeah. So we can come in and we have the space and tables.
Hey folks, birthday party.
Yeah.
That would be a blast.
I never thought about that. That's such a
that would be a blast.
Yeah, kids' birthdays and bachelorette parties. We've had some of those.
Oh, that would be a blast.
So we can have up to 12. We have 12 rig points, so we can have 12 people going at the same time. So
okay.
It's, a lot of women, mostly groups who want to come in and have fun with their friends, but don't want maybe an open class. So that's a lot of fun too. And then I've got a group of girls who are real fitness girls who are like, which forced me to put a more advanced class on the schedule because they're like, we want to come in, we want to do our thing, So I'm like, okay, all right. So we've got, a more advanced class on the schedule where they can come in and really get a hard hitting workout. We're burning like between 400 500 calories, in that time frame. Yeah. And they're really liking that a lot. So there's something for almost everyone. I've had groups of people, an older lady who comes in and she just wants to build her confidence. So people are there for different reasons.
Yeah. How old do you think?
How old was she?
Is there any limit? Is there any limit to the
early
age?
60s.
Yeah.
No, as long probably the later 60s is the oldest that I've had.
Yeah.
And the youngest I think I've had in
Thinking I get my mom
12.
and dad in there. They're 85 and 86.
Are they?
I don't know. I'm not sure.
I like to tell people if they can jump and land a jump, then we can probably do some
jump
work
and land a jump.
And it does take a little bit of coordination too.
But you're not. It doesn't have to be like an impact jump, right?
No, just can you jump and land back down again? Yeah, nothing too crazy. But then the bungee's going to absorb a lot of that too. So yeah. So it's really for anyone who wants to come try it and love it, hate it.
Yeah,
just come find out.
Awesome. All right. Well, Marina, thank you so much for joining us at Spirituality Adventures. Everybody, upsidebungee.com.
Yep.
And you can check it out, sign up for classes. Yep. And
let me post all of our events on Instagram too. So
okay. What is on Instagram?
Upside Bungee.
Same. Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah. Thanks so much. Thanks everybody for joining us at Spirituality Adventures, and we'll see you next time. This concludes today's episode. Thanks for tuning in and listening. Remember, if you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to my YouTube channel. Remember to like, share, or subscribe to the social media platform that you're using. And then go to our website, spiritualityadventures.com, and make a one-time donation, or you can subscribe monthly and receive our special bonus content. Thanks so much.